Hello, on today's episode of Reading Outside of My Comfort Zone, I am going to be reading my favorite YouTuber's favorite books. That YouTuber is Allie from Alice in Pages, and the books that I'm going to be reading today are A Psalm for the Wild Built and its sequel, A Prayer for the Crown Shy. These are both cozy fantasy, which is a genre that I've heard a lot about lately. I want to see if I like it, because I feel like I might, but I also feel like the stakes might be a little too low. The plot might be a little bit too slow, but we will see. Then I'm going to be reading Devotions, which is a collection of poetry by Mary Oliver. I want to be a poetry girly. I do. So this is my first step into seeing if I like poetry and like what I like about it, what I don't. Finally, the last book that I'll be reading in this vlog is The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating. This is nonfiction. It is a collection of essays about snails. Nonfiction is a genre that I want to get more into. Those are the books, those are the genres that we are going to be reading in this vlog, and there's going to be a little bonus book recommendation in the middle of this vlog. Will I like any of these genres? I don't know. Let's find out. Okay, we're starting off this video with Allie's #1 favorite book ever. This is A Psalm for the Wild Built. This is the first in the monk and the robot duology about a monk and a robot who go around to a bunch of people and ask, what do you need? How can we help? I was a little bit worried going into this book that this would be a little bit too cozy, a little bit too slow, a little bit too philosophical, a little bit too lacking a plot for me to enjoy it. But I started it last night and I'm really liking it so far. I'm halfway through the book already. I mean, it is a short book, but still. I'm halfway through the book. I'm liking it a lot. It is giving me Studio Ghibli Castle in the Sky vibes. So naturally I listened to that as I was reading it. And yeah, I think part of the reason I'm loving this so much is because of just where I'm at in life right now. I recently got let go from my job, which has been causing me a lot of stress lately. It's the end of an era. And there's a moment in this book where the monk decks, they decide that they no longer want to be a city monk, they want to be a tea monk out in the countryside, going from village to village, serving tea to people, which honestly, can I have that job? That sounds lovely. And so just like that, they're like, you know what, I'm going to start this, I'm going to do it. And within a couple of days, they've left their old life behind. They're done with that and they're going to go be a tea monk. And because of that sudden transition, they didn't think like, oh, do I know how to do this? Am I actually ready for this? And he has this moment where he's like, oh shit, what's going on? How am I gonna make this work? That moment just like comforted me that like there are changes, really big changes that can happen very suddenly in life. But even with those changes, life moves on and things will work themselves out. That was just an early indicator to me that like I'm reading this at the perfect time and I am going to really like this. Should we read some more? I'm gonna read some more now. I just finished reading A Psalm for the Wild Built and it was lovely. The last couple of pages, I didn't like full on cry, but I was teary-eyed. I don't know, just like the ending is so sweet and just like, it just felt really good to read that. And I'm excited to read the second one. This is perfect. This is exactly what I needed right now. I feel like I really relate to the monk character Dex. They just like feel kind of lost and not sure what to do. And they have this robot come along who's just like very curious and very just appreciative of everything and just like the perfect, I don't know, it was sweet, it was cozy, it was exactly what I needed right now. And I absolutely loved this. I don't know, it was just good, man. It was so good. I would highly recommend this. I also want to amend the statement I made about A Psalm for the Wild Built being like Castle in the Sky. I rewatched that over the weekend and that is a lot more intense. There's a lot more action in that movie than I remember. A Song for the Wild Built is not action-packed, but it does have a friendly robot, like the robot that Patsu and Shida encounter. So I just started reading book #2 of this video. This is Devotions by Mary Oliver. This is a compilation of Mary Oliver's poetry. I would like to like poetry. I would like to find some poetry that I enjoy, but I just haven't dabbled in it enough to find what I like. I was reading while I was eating my breakfast. That seemed like a nice slow, calm way to start my day. So I read the first section. So far, like, it's nice. It's a solid, like, I'm thinking so far it's like a solid 3-star. Like, it's nice, but it's not like, I don't see this staying with me. That could change. I'm gonna keep reading a few poems every day, and I will let you know if there's any particular poems that stand out to me, any that I am loving. Hi, I'm gonna break up this talk on devotion for just a minute with a little bonus book for you. I just finished reading Lonely Castle in the Mirror, which is another one of Allie's favorites. Now, I did not mention this one in the introduction for this video because this is a middle grade book about a bunch of kids who find a magical world, and that is my comfort zone. But I just finished this and I had to talk about it. It is so good. The ending made me cry, not because it's sad, it's a little bit bittersweet, so there's a little tiny bit of bitter and a lot of sweet to the ending, but it was so good. A new favorite of mine, it's about this little girl, not little girl, this like middle school aged girl. She stops going to school because she's being bullied, and so while she's sitting at home all day all alone, her mirror starts to glow and a portal opens up to this magical castle where she meets some other kids. They become friends, and you just have to read the book to find out what else happens. It healed 8th grader Hannah, who is going through her own middle school trauma. I loved this book. Now, to get back on track, let's talk about devotions really quick. It's fine. I feel like it's like 50-50 for me. Some of the poems, I love them, and then other ones I'm like, There's like one section that I've read so far that I really enjoyed, and it is called Dog Songs, because it's a bunch of poems about dogs. I have a greyhound. I love him so much. I love my dog. Reading that section about dogs and just how much dogs love and like how curious they are and just how happy they are to be alive, that I could relate to. Like each one of those poems in that section I could relate to because I've seen all of those emotions, I've seen all of those things in my own dog. The rest, like I said, there have been some good poems, but like this isn't a complete hit for me. Hello, it is gray and cloudy outside, so I'm in my grayest groutfit, as Allie would call it, to give you an update on Devotions by Mary Oliver. My update is, this is beautifully written. The nature imagery is very transportive. You can like really see like what she's talking about. You can imagine it. It feels like you're there, and that's beautiful. But my life is really stressful right now, and so because of all of this other stress, I can't appreciate this fully. So I'll read a little paragraph or a little stanza or whatever of the poem and then move on to the next one. And in that little gap between stanzas, my mind goes somewhere else. I start stressing. It's just not the time for me to be reading this. I need a story. I need a narrative. So I'm gonna softly DNF it. I'm gonna give it another try when I'm in a more stable mental state. This is an update. So I have some exciting news. I picked up Prayer for the Crown Shy and The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating. As I mentioned in my last clip, I want something with a story to it, and both of these are that, and both of them are also very short. Unfortunately, I woke up at 3 a.m. and was not able to go back to sleep. So around 6, I gave up. I got out of bed and started reading this, a cup of tea, watched the sunrise. It was nice. It was lovely. Even though I was really tired and grumpy about waking up at 3 a.m., I couldn't help but smile about what was happening in this book, because this is a continuation of A Song for the Wild Built. We have Dex, our tea monk, and Mosscap, the robot. They've been in the forest, and now they are venturing out of the forest, and they are returning to human civilization, and it is Mosscap's first time interacting with other humans. And it is so excited to meet these other humans, to see how they live, to ask them what they need and how it can help them. Just seeing that excitement made me happy. I'm loving this so far. I finished A Prayer for the Crown Shy last night, and I want to share my thoughts with you. If you read A Song for the Wild Bill, you have to read this one too. You have to read both to get the full picture. I understand why Ali groups them together. Here are a few things I liked about this one particularly. Number one, Mosscap and Dex are together the whole time, and because of that, you get to see their interactions more. You get to see their friendship grow, and I loved that. I thought that was really sweet. I also really relate to Dex and their experience of just feeling stuck and unsure of what to do with their life and what their purpose is and things like that. I relate to that. I feel like I could really be swept into the story and almost imagine myself as if I had met a robot and like the robot was asking me these questions. It just was really easy to fall into the story in that way. So I really liked that. The other thing I really liked about this one in particular is that because this is Mosscap's first time encountering human society, has lots of questions about religion and economics and politics and humans' relationship with nature and why they don't respect it more and things like that. So you have discussions on each of these topics that are just like really short and concise, but also get you thinking, and I love that. This is another 5-star for me, and I'm really glad I'm reading this right now. This morning was another morning where I woke up super early, so I started reading The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating at 5 a.m. This is about a woman who gets this very sudden, very mysterious, like bacterial infection that leaves her bedridden. Amidst all of these changes, a friend brings her a potted plant that has a little snail in it, and she becomes fascinated and attached to this snail. This is just like a little short story about all of the things she learns from the snail, and so far I'm really liking it. I was a little bit wary about this one. This one's a little bit more of a like literary fiction kind of vibe, and
honey, you've got a big storm coming.
I'm kind of iffy when it comes to literary fiction. This one's a little bit of a Studio Ghibli fantasy steampunky vibe, and so like this one felt more comfortable to me to read. This one I was like, ooh. A literary fiction about a woman who becomes attached to a snail. Not like literally, but like, you know what I mean. I can't relate to that, but it turns out I can. Here are a couple of things that I just connected with so far. When the body is rendered useless, the mind still runs like a bloodhound along well-worn trails of neurons, tracking the echoing questions, the confused family of whys, whats, and whens, and their impossibly distant kin how. This passage is like obviously alluding to the questions that this woman is asking about like her illness, like why did this happen to me? When can I go back to my normal life? I acknowledge that I am not physically debilitated like this woman, and I'm grateful for that, but I do have questions about my own struggles, you know? I think we all do when we struggle with something, when we're stressed about something and it's out of our control. I relate to that. I think we can all relate to that. A second thing that I relate to is the thing that captures this woman's attention about the snail is that like one day she sees it eating. She thinks she can hear it, or maybe she can hear it. I don't know. Do snails eat that loudly? But because of this sound, it pulls her focus out of those whys and hows and whens, and what is that snail eating? Do I need to be getting it food? How does it get its food? And so then the questions start to become about the snail rather than about this problem that she can't do anything to fix. I have had similar experiences when, you know, I'm stressed about something and like, how is this gonna get done? When I take my dog on a walk, I have a similar experience of just like being pulled out of myself, if that makes sense. And just, my dog is excited by a squirrel in the grass, and he's just gonna stand here and watch it as long as I let him. And it just like reminds me that everything is small. These problems that I think are huge really aren't that huge in the grand scheme of things. It's all gonna get resolved in its own way, in its own time. And so like right now, the best thing I can be doing for myself and for this situation is to sit here with my dog and watch some squirrels. You know, for this lady, what reminds her of that is a snail. For me, it's my dog. And either way, it's a good reminder for us to have. And maybe not just us, but all of us. It's okay, we can just be. It's a good reminder to have. I'm really glad I'm reading Allie's favorites right now because hell do I need it. Hello, good morning. I'm here to give you my final thoughts on The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating. First of all, I was wrong. I made a mistake. This is absolutely not literary fiction. This is nonfiction, and it is a collection of essays about snails. The last time we spoke about this, I had only read the first, what I thought was a chapter. It's an essay, and it was written like a story. So I was like, oh, this is gonna be an interesting, slow-paced, like literary fiction story. No. All that being said, had I known that and like really understood that before reading this, I'm not sure if I would have read it because I'm not particularly interested in snails. I don't care to know about snail anatomy and how long snails live and what they eat, but I have read this now and I do know some of those things now and I don't mind. There were a couple of things in the beginning that I connected with. Like I said, the essays are most like 95% facts about snails, and then at the very end of each essay there's like a little paragraph relating the way snails sleep to Elizabeth's condition. I wish there was more of that. I wish this would have had more of her story. I would have liked to know a little bit more about her thoughts. I wanted more of that. I wanted more humanness in this book. For what it was, I'm pleasantly surprised by it. Welcome to the end of this video. I would say this has been pretty successful. I came out of this with 3 new 5-star books: A Song for the Wild Bill, A Prayer for the Crown Shy, and Lonely Castle in the Mirror. I know Lonely Castle in the Mirror was a bonus one, but it was still 5 stars. A Song for the Wild Bill and A Prayer for the Crown Shy, I think I'm gonna dabble more in cozy fantasy. I think the themes in these two just like really connected with me with where I am in my life right now and what I need. Devotions, I am going to come back to that and I will let you know what I think of it when I do finish it. The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating. Who would have thought that I would have enjoyed a bunch of essays about snails as much as I enjoyed this? All right, those are all the books that I've read. Those are all my thoughts. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you've read any of these books, please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. And if there are any genres you want me to explore in this series of reading outside my comfort zone, please add those in the comments as well. With all that said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to me ramble about books, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!